There's been good performance, there's been bad performance, but the Giants no doubt have been decimated by injuries, and that alone should give us hope for a better second half of the season.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on the show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, been hosting this show for over 5 years, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Check us out there if you have not already. Please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down or are over, the sports stop sportsing like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And coming up on today's show, we're finally going to do our first half in review for the Giants, which we've been trying to do for a few days here, and we just have had other things to cover. But, you know, the Giants have played 85 games, right? They're 41 and 44. So 85 games. So they passed the halfway point, 4 games ago. So we're a little bit past the first half. But we're going to kind of review 85 games. I don't want to pretend like the last 4 games didn't happen. And it's been a mixed bag, as I kind of said there. There has been good, and that's where I want to start is I kind of want to go by offense and then by defense and pitching, run scoring, run prevention. But there have been injuries, and that's what gives us hope for a better second half. But there has been good. Let's not pretend like on the offensive side. I think if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the thumbnail or whatever is Heliot Ramos. I think that's easily the guy that we would start this show talking about, because his performance so far in 2024 has been, one of the, I don't know if the baseball world is quite caring as much as we are, but it's a big story. Like, his breakout is a kind of story within the whole sport, because this guy has emerged as a good player, and he was a former top prospect. He was the Giants' first round draft pick in 2017, 19th overall pick out of Leadership Christian High School in Puerto Rico. He was he's only 24 now, and he was drafted in 2017. So he was quite young, obviously, when he was drafted. But this year, he's put together just an incredible start to his season in 48 games. We're now out of the realm of tiny samples, and we're in the realm of somewhat small samples, but also a big enough sample to say that this is real to a legitimate extent. I'm not saying he's going to keep up quite this level of performance, but you don't really just fluke your way into 200 plus plate appearances of this kind of performance if you stink, typically. And so he's hitting 294, 368 on base, 508 slugging, a 149 weighted runs created plus, with 100 being league average, so about 50% above major league average offense, which is very, very good. And he's put together 2 Fangraphs wins above replacement in just 48 games. Whereas if you look on the Giants, that's about where Matt Chapman is, but Matt Chapman has played 82 games. So, 33 fewer games for Ramos and about as much value produced as Matt Chapman, who's actually been pretty solid himself. And Bailey leads the team in this category, largely due to his excellent defense combined with the fact that he's been a well above average bat this season. So another positive there is Patrick Bailey following up even though he didn't hit well when all was said and done, if you look at the overall numbers for Bailey last year, it was still a really good rookie year because of what he was able to do defensively. But he's followed that up with a, even better 2024 in which he's hitting, like legitimately hitting. And so he leads the team with 2.3 Fangraphs wins above replacement, but he's played 11 more games than Ramos. And so Ramos here, yeah, I think the best story of the first half is, certainly on the offensive side for the Giants. Nothing really on the pitching side that's going to stand out in the same kind of way as Ramos. Maybe more of the same out of Logan Webb, which is, you don't want to take it for granted, but you almost do take it for granted what Logan Webb does each and every year. So, yeah, Bailey, Chapman, who had a rough start but has like come around, and the line may not sound extremely impressive. 242 average, 323 on base, 414 slugging, but that's 13% above major league average, and also the expected numbers are better than the actual numbers. So, I expect kind of maybe a better second half from Chapman, even though it overall, despite a really slow start, has been a very solid first half for Matt Chapman. I mean, he's kind of like on pace for basically a 4-win season, which is like all-star caliber level play. And so that's just kind of what Matt Chapman does. And he's pretty consistent. Like when you look down at the end of the year, he's pretty much always in a similar spot. And that is a valuable kind of contributor. I would say he's trending towards opting out and re-hitting the market after the season, unlike some other guys when we get to the things that haven't been going so well. Brett Wisely, another kind of real positive from this first half, like unexpected positive. Had a horrible, miserable kind of rookie season with the Giants last year, but this year with injuries that they've sustained, they've really needed him, and he's come up and in over 100 plate appearances now, hitting 296, 325 on base, 444 slugging, just hit a huge walk-off homer against the Dodgers. I mean, he looks like a different guy. Like physically, his stance, the way he sets up in the box is completely different. He made alterations to his swing and setup, and the results have been there. And so, Wisely and Ramos, young players coming into their own a little bit. Wisely about half as many plate appearances as Ramos, and I was saying the same kind of stuff about Ramos back when he only had about 100 plate appearances, is that I need to see more, and I need to see more from Wisely. But if he can keep it up for another 100 or so plate appearances, it becomes obviously more and more believable. But Wisely's just hitting the ball hard a lot and hitting the ball with authority a lot, and so it's just really good to see. There have definitely been disappointments like Michael Conforto, Jorge Soler, just with kind of mediocre. They both have just a 106 weighted runs created plus with very limited defensive value. Conforto playing the field but not playing it particularly well. Soler just being kind of a pure DH, and then of course, I mean, Soler, I'm not sure he has a single moment of not being just a DH this year. I'd have to double check. But then some other disappointments like Wilmer Flores has not gotten it going. Tom Murphy, if you even remember him, he was, the backup catcher. He had a rough start and then got injured. And, other guys here and there. Jung-Hoo Lee out for the season with that dislocated shoulder. But overall, run scoring and kind of the offense hasn't been the problem for the Giants, who have a 105 team weighted runs created plus, which is 11th out of 30 teams in baseball. So it's not, the best offense in the league, but it's not even particularly close to below average or bottom half. And so the offense doesn't suggest a team that should be 3 games under 500. And we'll look at some other stats like maybe hitting in the clutch and all that coming up in just a minute, but also get into the pitching, the defense, and the injuries. So all of that coming up momentarily. And before we get into it, Today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you by FanDuel. I obviously love sports. So do you. I love them so much that I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs end in the NBA and NHL, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. So head over to fanduel.com/locked on and start making the most of your summer. And obviously, if you're a baseball fan, you've got a lot you can still do because baseball is going on and there's games every single day. And including today, just looking at all these different games, looking at the Giants, the Braves heavy favorites in this first game, the Giants at, plus 168 on the money line. I don't think that's wrong given that it's Hayden Birdsong making his second major league start against Reynaldo Lopez, who's having a really good year, and you're playing a good team on the road. The weather, all that playing a factor too. So it's going to be a tough matchup. So anyway, you can check that out each and every day on FanDuel, fanduel.com/locked on. And FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball as well. So check them out. All right, as promised, we are going to get into, maybe like there is a place for talking about things like hitting with runners in scoring position. The reason I don't talk about it often is manyfold, and I'll explain why in just a minute, but we'll also get into pitching and defense and injuries as well, and why there's reason for optimism for the second half for this team. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Every day is tomorrow. We will be breaking down game one of this huge 3-game series in Atlanta. The Giants just played the Dodgers tough. The Dodgers are very good, obviously, and they're going to have to keep it going because, they're already 3 games under 500. And if you start getting beat up on this road trip playing a couple of really good teams, then you could be in trouble. And so this is a big series, and it's a big road trip for me. Like, I think, trying to go 500 on this road trip would be a big accomplishment and go a long way. So we'll get into game one of this series tomorrow. A reminder that you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Giants. Also, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day long? Do you have to turn down the volume with all of that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And so, there's all these numbers I talk about. By the way, the Giants are, in terms of batting average, they're 12th in Major League Baseball, on base percentage 12th in Major League Baseball, slugging percentage 17th in Major League Baseball. But keep in mind, they play in a, pitcher-friendly park. And so that's a number like weighted runs created plus. The plus actually stands for meaning it's been park adjusted. So, yes, I think it also means like that it's been set so that 100 is average, but it has been park adjusted, meaning, it accounts for the difficulty of the ballpark when it says the Giants have been 5% better than Major League average. But that doesn't necessarily equate to actual runs scored, because you can overall do really well as a team, but if you just do exceptionally poorly in like clutch situations, then you're not going to score as many runs as your kind of expected total of runs. So the Giants, they do come in with the 14th most runs in baseball, so middle-ish of the pack. But again, they play in a tough place to hit. And so, they get a little bit of credit for that. And so, Yeah, I mean 14th in runs is when you play at Oracle Park, it's not bad. And lately they've kind of been on a roll. If we look at, in the last month, if we look at the last 30 days, I bet you the Giants are, yeah, I mean they have a 115 weighted runs created plus in the last 30 days, which is it still comes in at 11th, which is kind of surprising, but still 15% better than Major League average in the last 30 days offensively. And their total runs scored in the last 30 days is 8th at 128. And their home run total 10th. So they've been hitting well. Like that hasn't been the issue. But if we look at it on the whole season, I do not often look at this kind of stuff, but um, I don't even honestly know where to find it with runners in scoring position. I know that I recently found it, but yeah, I apologize for kind of teasing that as if I was going to talk about it, but it's just not something I often talk about. But in terms of clutch, there's this Fangraphs metric called clutch, and the Giants rank right in the middle-ish at 14th. And in terms of win probability added, they are at their 10th on the offensive side. And so I don't know. It looks like they've just kind of been normal. So that's good. No extremes there. Kind of a normal amount of clutchness, which can vary. The reason I don't talk about it is because it's not really predictive. Like one year you can do great, one year you do poorly, and there's really no explaining why except randomness. Because why would one team, one player be really clutch and then really unclutch? Like it just doesn't. The best explanation is just that it's random. It's just like randomly how you do in those plate appearances. Maybe there are certain players who are better consistently, but more often than not, it seems to be random. So anyway, moving on to run prevention, we're pitching and defense. This Giants team, I think we'll talk about defense first because the pitching kind of ties in so much with the injuries. So when we talk about fielding, the Baseball Savant website wasn't loading earlier, so I'll see if I can get it open now. I can. And so I'm using outs above average here to evaluate the Giants. This is a StatCast metric, and the Giants, yeah, it says no data found. So they're having issues right now. So on Fangraphs, thankfully, they also import this data, but sometimes it's a little different. So just by the way, I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't align with what we see on the actual Baseball Savant website. But anyway, the Giants come in with a total outs above average of 3, which ranks 14th. So kind of right in the middle defensively in that category. And then in terms of framing, which is just a major component of defense, they do rank 11th. That must be that Kurt Casale doesn't rate out well as a good defender or as a good framer, because Patrick Bailey is like number 1 in terms of his framing kind of numbers and strike rate that he gets on borderline pitches. So I don't know exactly. I wish Baseball Savant was working right now, but it seems like their website is having some trouble. Catcher framing. Yeah, none of their stuff is working right now. So anyway, defensive runs saved has the Giants at -2, which is obviously around average. Even though it's 20th, 0 is average because it's that's how they set it. It says right here, total defensive runs saved, runs above average. And so the Giants are at -2 in that category. I don't believe. No, it does. That does factor in catchers as well, whereas outs above average does not. And then ultimate zone rating is another defensive metric. Per 150 innings, Giants are kind of right in the middle. So by all these metrics, Giants kind of rank middle of the pack defensively. I think they've had some really good defenders and some poor defenders, and it's added up to basically defense that, I mean, that checks out to me. Like certain guys haven't looked great out there. Like Michael Conforto comes to mind. Luis Matos comes to mind again, which is unfortunate. Not sure Heliot Ramos is the best center fielder of all time, but certainly has been passable out there, but maybe some issues a little bit here and there. And then Matt Chapman has been kind of inconsistent at times, a little up and down at times with his defense. Some exceptional plays and then some kind of uncharacteristic like error type plays. And they've also had a lot of injuries, guys filling in. And so a bunch of guys playing like Trenton Brooks, like what has he done what did he do defensively, and was he in the plans at all? So anyway, overall, Fangraphs again has this defense metric, which is just overall runs above average, kind of factoring in the value of all the different positions, and they've got the Giants at 19th with minus 4.6 runs above average, whereas the worst team is at minus 28, and that's the White Sox, and the best team is at plus 21, and that's the Royals. So defense, clutch, like neither those things are like middle of the pack, and offense just a little bit above average. So clearly, I think just pitching has probably been what's contributed, and I know it has, but we'll prove it with numbers, to the Giants being 3 games under 500. And so coming up in just a minute, we'll talk about the pitching performance and why it has a lot to do with injuries and why there's hope for the second half, or a better second half, because they have so many guys and a lot of talent coming back from injuries in the second half, and some guys pretty darn soon. And all along, we knew they were going to be guys who come back right around the second half of the season. So we'll get into the pitching and the injuries and the optimism about guys coming back from injuries momentarily. And before we do, today's episode is brought to you in part by our good friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way, my personal favorite way, to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into 1,000. Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including the great state of California. So I've been playing regularly, and today you can see, if you're on YouTube, some of you, this is a live episode, by the way. We go live almost for every episode now. So you can check us out on YouTube. Hit the bell notification, Locked On Giants on YouTube. But you can see here, if you're looking at the camera, that I have taken more than half a run for LaMonte Wade Jr. tonight, because he gets on base more than anybody in the sport, and I'm kind of banking on a run there. And then more than half a walk for Marcell Ozuna, who's got a walk rate north of 10%. You've got Hayden Birdsong starting, and he has command issues. If he has any issues, it's been command in his minor league career. And so those 2 picks, $40 to pay $170. So that's what I'm going with tonight. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code all lowercase Locked On MLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code all lowercase Locked On MLB on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Today's episode is also brought to you in part by Tax Network USA. Here on Locked On Giants, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team, whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs. It's year-round. You know what else is year-round? Collection season. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. With over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, that would be me, or finally hit that parlay this season and need help correctly filing, that wouldn't be me. Call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon and be sure to mention Locked On Giants at checkout and you'll receive a $250 discount off their services. Alrighty, as promised, we are going to get into the pitching, which has been the problem kind of unexpectedly for the Giants this season, and why there is optimism for better things in the second half because of the pitching. Because it's not just been, oh, everybody's healthy and they're not performing. It's been, no, nobody's healthy and they're not performing. So the Giants come in with an ERA of 4.50, 4.50, which is 25th in Major League Baseball. So when all these other categories, we're talking middle of the pack-ish or better, and then suddenly you're 25th in something like earned run average, that is pretty easy to explain that that's kind of been the main problem for you. And so there's, I've seen, like, when we've done mailbags, there's people are always asking about the hitting, but like, what about the pitching? That's, to me, it's clearly been a bigger issue. But, part of what's weird about it is you look at, they've got a lot of guys doing very well. You've got, Logan Webb is doing Logan Webb things, has a, no, just like he always has, it seems, an ERA in the low threes, 3.12, 112 and a third innings, just over the halfway point of the season. So on pace to, again, kind of surpass 200 innings. Ryan Walker has been tremendous out of the bullpen, 2.09 ERA. Kyle Harrison was having a solid season, has a little bit of a setback with an ankle sprain, but a 3.96 ERA in 77 and a third innings. Jordan Hicks, one of the better stories, like on the pitching side, they're, the peripheral, like expected ERA, fielding independent pitching, all of that is like significantly higher than his actual ERA of 3.36. And so that is worth noting. He's kind of had some rough starts recently, and maybe there's some fatigue. He has reached a new career high in innings already, so they may have to ease off him a little bit, but right now they need to lean on him a lot because there's so many injuries. Taylor Rogers has had a nice bounce back season. Tyler Rogers. So there's a lot of good performance, but then you get to like Blake Snell, and the fact that he's been on the injured list twice with the same thing, but is set to come back pretty darn soon. He's going to make one more rehab start. I think it's tomorrow, Wednesday, and then he would rejoin the rotation. Camilo Doval has struggled more than he has in any other season this year, with an ERA of 4.41 in a small sample of 32 and 2/3 innings. A lot of guys in the pen, Landon Roop, they expected to be good, 6.06 ERA. Keaton Winn expected to be in that rotation and be a contributor, 7.16 ERA. Kaiwei Tang, they called him up, 9.82 ERA in 11 innings. Dalton Jeffries barely pitched, had a 17.36 ERA. Luke Jackson has been a big disappointment, 6.23 ERA in 26 innings. Mason Black, they expected to contribute, 8.79 ERA in 14 and a third innings. So it's like, besides Blake Snell, it's been kind of these, I don't want to say random, but like young and or just kind of veteran, but like crapshoot or like fly, took a flyer on some guys and they just, nobody has really hit there. Sean Jelly, overall, he kind of blew up the other day against the Dodgers, but otherwise 40 and 2/3 innings, 3.54 ERA. So that's been a nice surprise. Spencer Howard had some moments, but 5.63 ERA. So like I said, 4.50 ERA, 25th in baseball. That's just like, okay, well, that's been your problem. Worth noting, their fielding independent pitching ranks 12th. And so if they could just kind of be pitching to what that peripheral number suggests, they would be in a lot better shape. And so the hope, for the second half lies in looking at the injured list. Right now, they've got a bunch of guys even on the position player side. Yaz, Wilmer Flores, Tyro Estrada, Tom Murphy, and then of course Jung-Hoo Lee out for the season, so there's no hope there for Lee. But on the pitching side, you've got Blake Snell, Kyle Harrison, Robbie Ray, Alex Cobb, Keaton Wynn, and Tristan Beck. That's 6 guys. But most significantly, Snell and Robbie Ray. These are 2 Cy Young Award winners of the not so distant past. Snell last year, Robbie Ray in 2021, I think it was. Kyle Harrison, was having a solid season and just a little setback with this ankle thing. Alex Cobb has been one of the Giants' better starters the last few years, and he's on his way back as well. So if you can get Snell, Ray, Harrison, and Cobb back, and then continue to be like 5% above average offensively or so, hopefully better. Like I said, they've been like 15% above average in the last month. There's reason for optimism there. And then in the bullpen, Doval like figures to kind of regress, and yes, you can have positive regression to his career numbers. Tyler Rogers has been good. Taylor Rogers has been good. Ryan Walker has been good. Eric Miller has been pretty good. Randy Rodriguez has shown flashes of being quite good. Sean Jelly as well. So there's, to me, like, the pitching could be quite good. And in fact, we thought the starting pitching was going to be a real strength of this team. And when we sort, it's not just like the bullpen that's cost them. It's been the starters and the bullpen. If we look at ERA for the Giants, starting pitcher ERA is 25th at 4.53. That's crazy. They're going to be like identical. Relief pitcher ERA 24th at 4.47. So both the relievers and the starters right around 4.5. And so that's just too high. You want to be, you don't want to be allowing that many runs every day. And to me, that's the number one reason they are where they are, but it's also the number one reason for optimism. If they can get, maybe not all, but like, 3 of those starters back, like Snell and Ray and Kyle Harrison, even if Cobb has setbacks or whatever. But if you get them all back, it's a dangerous team, and a team you wouldn't want to see in a short series in the playoffs either if those guys were pitching well. And Giants would be able to pick who's pitching the best. You got Webb, and then whoever else is pitching best in a short, best of 3 series, it could be a dangerous team if they can get in. And right now they're 3 games back. So anyway, that's my first half analysis. Let me know what you think. And also a reminder that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Also a reminder, you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Giants. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on X at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. Helps me out so much, so thank you in advance, and thanks to everyone who's done so already. Can't wait to be with you again tomorrow, breaking down this Game 1. Giants definitely going to be underdogs here, like I said, with FanDuel saying the same thing. But, if you can steal a win, be huge. So we'll be breaking it down tomorrow. Can't wait to be with you again then. Thanks again for listening. You are now Locked On Giants.